Hello everyone. This recording is meant to help you with the last step of thesis writing, that is submission. In other words, we are not talking about doing or writing your research, but doing the final checks in preparation for submission. I'm going to give you 10 tips. Let's call that 10 tips to turn in your thesis. The first tip is not necessarily a part of the submission process, but nevertheless extremely important. Constantly back up your work. Having your work only in your computer is a disaster waiting to happen. Have backup copies online and in a flash drive. After all, computers are machines prone to breakdowns and no amount of begging will get your documents back in shape. So work on your computer, but after significant additions, update the backup version you have stored elsewhere. The second tip is about ensuring the quality of your writing. If you know that you make mistakes in your writing, enlist the help of a proofreader or an editor well ahead of time. Their functions are different, so know the difference and decide what you want done. By definition, proofreading is a surface level check that will edit out all types of language errors. Editing, on the other hand, corrects issues at the core of writing like sentence construction and language clarity and improves the readability and tone of the text. So, an editor will require a considerable length of time to work on your thesis. Even if you are quite confident about your language, ask a friend to read through your document. We can be quite blind to our own mistakes, especially when we have worked on the same document over a long period of time. A first-time reader will see what you want. Remember that the final check needs to be made on a printed copy. Why? Mistakes are more easily observable on printed page. Thirdly, I cannot stress enough how important double-checking your referencing is. Read your thesis top to bottom and make a note of all the in-text citations used. Cross-check with the reference list at the end of the document. All your in-text citations should appear in your reference list, and there cannot be additional entries in your reference list that does not appear in your text in some form. Fourth tip, one of the most important things you have to do is reading your faculty's or department's guidelines on how to prepare your thesis. This should include details about the recommended style guide, page settings, sections required in the thesis, printing specifications, the number of copies required, and similar other information. Some guides can be general, but some are quite specific and will tell you exactly what details are required on your cover page and in what order. Fifth tip, once you have proofread and double-checked your thesis, email yourself the final version in Word and PDF formats. If there is an issue with your flash drive, you can always use your email to access your backup copy. Next, ask the department or the examination division about the submission process well ahead of the deadline. You may be required to get the signature of your supervisor on your thesis. If that is the case, you must email or call ahead and get an appointment to get the signature. This is because the academic staff will not be available to meet with you at all times, and you do not want to find out on the last day that your supervisor is out of town and cannot sign off on your thesis. The next tip is an extension of this. Find out to whom and where you have to submit your thesis. You might go to your department to submit only to be told that you have to make the submission at the exam division. You do not want this kind of hassle and anxiety on the day of submission. The eighth tip is very important. Take a PDF document for print. Make sure it is the final version of your thesis. This is important because Word documents can be affected when they are opened in different computers with different operating systems. Tip 9. Plan carefully how you are going to get the printing done and have backup plans. Go for print at least 2 days before the deadline, never on the day of the deadline. First of all, have a reliable service provider in mind. Any number of things can go wrong, including power cuts, equipment breakdown, and other similar problems. You need to have time to address them if issues pop up. Having to scramble last minute will be stressful and expensive for you. Service providers that can print and bind your thesis at short notice are often comparatively expensive. Lastly, once the printing is done, don't forget to double-check the printed pages and the collation. Make sure that the sections and pages are assembled correctly before binding it. It is also a good idea to keep a complete printed copy with you. Now you are ready to submit. I hope this helps